Okay, this one is for the fans of Bridgerton. That's right. So, if you're a fan of the show, you know that it is in the Regency period, and the Regency period more or less talks about the time between 1795 and 1830, early 1830s, somewhere in there. But the official time is the Regency period is 1811 with the Regency Act when George III kind of lost his marbles even more. And so what we have here, but the general term more or less applies to the early 1800s. So you just sort of think of it in that way. And we happen to have at the James Monroe Museum a pretty awesome collection of Regency period stuff. And some of the stuff includes these really cool shoes and these combs. So let's talk about them. So if you notice here, this one actually, they have the heels here. So this one is early 1800s, but it still has the heels of the earlier period, which is the late 1700s. So you're still seeing, this one's belonged to Elizabeth Monroe. So you're still seeing that sort of old school aesthetic that's within the shoe itself. And you can see it here as well. But what happens? Well, as it goes along, you see it sort of changes to this more slipper, almost ballet-esque style, right? Here, let me show you. Go closer. It looks like a ballet shoe, doesn't it? And what happened is after the French Revolution, there was sort of a little bit of a egalitarian kind of bent in society. And they started sort of streamlining fashion in that sense. And you actually have it right here, where if you could see right here, it's based on neoclassical aesthetics. Very simple, right? It's very simple, very sleek. What's it made out of? Well, this one in particular is made out of silk satin. A little nerd side note here, silk and satin. The difference is that satin is the style of weaving that is for the actual fabric itself. So whenever they would weave satin, they would, it actually would weave so that on the outside it was sort of polished and on the inside it had sort of a matte color. And they'd use different fabrics. You can use cotton for it, but these ones are no less, these particular ones are actually silk. So it's silk satin that you have here. Silk, of course, originating in China. And then you have these ribbons going up. You say, well, what are the ribbons for? Well, they're actually not shoelaces in the sense that you might think of them today. They actually wrap up against the ankles. And I admit, I'm ashamed to say I've never seen Bridgerton, but I would assume in the show itself, you'll probably see ankles with ribbons being wrapped up around them, and that's what that is. So that's the actual real thing. The bottom is actually leather. In this particular case, it is kid leather. So that's made out of goat leather. And it's very refined, very delicate. Did they last long? And the answer is no. Actually, I remember reading an account of some count's wife was bereaved in the fact that her shoes kept messing up because she was a walker, and the shoes kept falling apart. So if they look like they fall apart, the answer is they kind of did. But they're really beautiful. Now, we have a couple combs here. And there's obviously different styles here. This one is made out of tortoiseshell. And if you look at it, you kind of can imagine a tortoiseshell. And by the way, I want to, Jenna, our fantastic assistant to Lindsay, our event coordinator, and Jenna also is a rising curator potentially. And she put this display together. It's pretty cool. The tortoiseshell would actually go into the hair. And I admit, I don't know much about that. Does anyone know if I know that it sort of sticks in there? Maybe in the comments, if anyone knows anything a little bit more about that, they could tell us. This one, they say it's tortoiseshell. It looks a little like horn to me, but you know, it could be a tortoiseshell. Some of the other ones here. This is actually a watch that belonged to Elizabeth Monroe. The top of it is porcelain, so the face is actually hard paste porcelain. It's by this guy, this Swiss guy, of course. Who is moved to Paris. His name is Bridget, and I'm butchering the name, but it's like Beugent. And he was a prominent watchmaker. So you have porcelain on the outside, and then that is silver on the silver casing on there with some tarnishing going on there. So that's something we can fix. But that belonged to Elizabeth Monroe. And so when people wonder, did folks have watches, pocket watches? The answer is they did. So that's kind of a cool little So this one here, this carving here, this brooch, you can see that it's carved out of shell. And the shell itself, what they would do is the shell would be, you see how it's like sort of orange on the bottom and it's sort of white on the top? So what they would do is they would take the whole thing, carve out in the middle, and then they would dig down into it and carve away. So they're not actually adding to it, they're chipping away at it. Which is a really cool technique. Something that's interesting, if you go to Italy today, they still do that. This is also as a direct result of neoclassical revival, because they did this a lot in ancient times, ancient Rome, ancient Greece, things like that. And then we have a Necessaire here, which is sort of the pocket watch for ladies. There's a bunch of weird sort of things in here. I'll bring out this one piece in particular. Actually, I'll just sort of pull out the end. Oh, thank you. Sort of pull out the end here. If you see that on the end, that is okay. So this right here in the Necessaire, you look at it, it's like, well, why would they have a tiny little spoon? That actually, believe it or not, is an ear scoop, and they used it to clean out the ear. And as you may be wondering, they're using a brass ear scoop to clean out the ear. The answer is yes. And the answer also is yes, they did injure themselves. I looked it up, and there are plenty of instances of people injuring their ears with it, but that's what they used it for, the old ear scoop. So this is kind of a neat piece. But anyway, these pieces are all here at the James Monroe Museum. Oh, this kind of cool style slipper. That also is leather. This one is really delicate. This one's a little more unusual. Jenna actually pointed this out earlier. So it has sort of a different, unusual vibe to it, and you could see the difference between it. In fact, in the comment section, if you want to give thoughts on why you think that is, please let us know. But we do know that it's a slipper style, pointed on the end, and that's a little bit different than the other ones. So there you go. Okay, I think that's it. All right, see y'all later.